This is Kimberly Quinn, host of the Mindcraft podcast, and I can't tell you how much fun I have had doing this podcast. I started when the world closed over the pandemic in an attempt to spread some positivity out there and give people some strategies to enhance their own well-being and reduce anxiety and all of that. Now, 2 years later, we're still going strong and now listened to by 52 countries across the world. And I've even helped some of my students get going with their own podcasts. It's super easy to do. And I'll tell you, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. I'll just explain for you. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is a ball. Start today. Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft podcast episode. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm thrilled to be out here. It's a beautiful September afternoon here. Wow, the leaves are just starting to change here in northern Vermont. Well, it's kind of late, honestly. They're just barely starting. Okay, so anyway, I want to talk today with you about sort of learning to or shifting into operating from a place of strength. And after all, it's strength that people respect. So think about it, when, who do you go to when you really, really need help? Something's just cracked you down the middle. You have a big decision to make in life, or you feel like you've really screwed something up. Who do you really go to? I know for me, it's my husband. He's wonderful at listening to me, and also my rooftop friend. And because we tend to gravitate to the people who are really going to tell us what we need to hear versus what we want to hear, right? The people who tell us what we want to hear, and that doesn't mean that they're certainly not bad people. It might just be like a different layer of the onion, right? We've talked about our people and our being different layers of the onion. With this situation, we're talking about those in our cabinet, our safest people, because the people who just tell you what you want to hear, they're often just acquaintances at work, or third or four or five layers of onion back, and that's okay. They're telling you what you want to hear to make you feel better. That's a nice intention, to get your approval maybe, which of course is about the ego. But the people who tell you what you need to hear, they are coming from a place of authenticity and integrity, because it takes risk on their part to sort of put your well-being in front of or above their own need for your approvals. They're kind of risking you being upset with them by laying it right on the line. This is what's going on. And they're saying with love and kindness, but the truth can be hard to take sometimes. And that's exactly what we need to hear. So people respect this, because people respect integrity. People respect strength. They don't respect weakness, which is just glossing it over like frosting and everything's fine, because no, it isn't fine. I may need some real guidance here. And again, the person, your safe person, listening and then helping you and saying some things, they're coming from their own authenticity, living within their own frame of authenticity. So yes, people respect strength. And I'll tell you, I just want to mention too that my inspiration for today came from Wayne Dyer, definitely one of my greatest teachers in this life. His voice is also very soothing. There are days I listen to him just because it feels like I'm getting a mental massage or something. Anyway, so we want to come from a place that's effective, right? We want to operate from a place that's effective, and this means realizing our own value, our own worthiness. That I'm a divine creation. You can make up, whatever your own words are. I deserve to be here, because a lot of people don't feel that they do. You gotta come into that on your own. Right? I'm a divine creation connected to other divine creatures. I deserve to be here. I was put on this earth to fulfill my own divine purpose with my own unique fingerprint. I am here for a purpose. And here's the thing, we've talked about this a lot. Knowing your own value is the core of any kind of growth, spiritual growth at the core, because we've got to realize our own value for all the rest of it to fall into place. So when we realize our own value, we're not saying that we've arrived there, we've got 100%. We've got to be really on the track though, and knowing that we have a right to be here, that we're here on purpose, and that that there's a plan for us. It's something we were put on this earth to do. As you know, for me, it's educating, which is why teaching just fills me up and over the top. I fly around the room, not even looking at a clock, which would be hard at Champlain anyway, because we're a clockless campus. And also the educating I do in the well-being role. I mean, I'm just in such a flow zone. But here's the thing: is that no one has the right to get in the way of that. No one has the right to get in the way of your authentic purpose or your level of happiness, your overall life satisfaction. No one has the right to throw a wrench in your wheel. It's important to remember that, and that comes back to the value and feeling worthy. That they just don't have a right to do that. It's like a universal code or something. That's what Wayne Dyer would say. And there's also a Sanskrit word, ahimsa, which means do no harm. I will do, no more harm. So when we prevent people from throwing a wrench in our wheel of happiness, right? It's important that we don't derail them, because we have to kind of do what we need to do with honesty and kindness, because that's the rules. Is we have every right in the world to go forward with intention towards our divine purpose, as long as we don't disrupt anyone else's path of divine purpose. That is the deal. As long as we are not disrupting anybody else's happiness, getting in the way of what their purpose is, we're good to roll. So, okay, so we're talking about being quietly effective, and I think we've spoken before about we teach people how to treat us every day, all day long. We've talked about the unconscious mind being responsible for about 95 to 96% of everything we say and do all day long, right? So we walk around all day teaching people how to treat us, which, if we're not feeling that our own value and our own worth, and all the having all this kind of positive dialogue going through our minds too, we're going to often teach people to mistreat us, to not treat us as we deserve to be treated. And it's important to realize that the best way to teach people how to treat us is not with words at all. Not with words at all. They're not going to hear them. We get all wrapped up in discussing, and persuading and trying to convince people of our value with words. That just makes us actually look weaker, and people don't respect weakness. Please like me. Look at all I have to offer. I've done this and that and this and that, and I'm really a nice person. You should be treating me nicely. None of that works. It just has us in a place of victim, which is a weak place. Trying to convince other people of our worth. And if we're trying that hard to convince people outside of us of our worth, what we're obviously really doing is trying to convince ourselves that we're worthy. And that just comes off as weak, and people don't respect it. And so the best way to teach people how to treat us is with our behavior, and without words at all. So, I was listening to Wayne. He talked about an example about, somebody's yelling at you, just rah, 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 yelling at you. The best thing to do is not to scream back at them, but to leave the room, and not to leave the room with an attitude, not to slam a door and make a big point of it. Just quietly leave the room, because the more energy we give to the individual yelling, screaming, maybe saying expletives, whatever they're doing when they're angry, if we give any kind of energy to it, that actually feeds them, that actually rewards them. So we want to leave without having swag out the door or any snark. And that was just one example. But we're quietly effective by just doing and not saying, is the whole point. And then Wayne talked about just like a universal knowledge base. I don't think there was any credit given for this by any particular person. But it says, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. And when I heard Wayne say that this morning, I just found that so powerful and so true. And especially us midlifers, at this point, we've pieced together lots of what happened early on in childhood and then teenagehood and young adulthood and all that. And many of us are feeling pretty good in our skin. And we're not saying we've already arrived. After all, it's about the process, right? We're feeling pretty good in our skin, though. And And this really, at least at a fabulous 57, makes so much sense. And I can think of times, especially younger, um, my 20s and 30s, and with different people, and, getting caught up in these people that maybe have certain stronger personalities, might have been a position of power, might have been a power differential that was just social, not in a workplace. And now maybe they might have been feeling just a little stronger than us. But I have memories of, especially in my 20s, I would say, totally unaware of it because I wasn't in this current place with wisdom. When you're 20s, you just don't have it, right? Trying to convince people, I really am this night. I really am I really am whatever, the type of person you want to hang around with or whatever you want. And it's all just coming from a place of ego and seeking out approval. And yeah. And then when you get to, you get into midlife, you're like, wow, does this make a lot of sense? We don't need to get involved in the snark around us at all. We don't need to get involved in the noise around us at all. We just need to be quietly effective. Just be a class act. I think of my grandmother, actually, just having this conversation. She just came into my head because my husband says this too. She was my everything, but since we've known each other, my husband and I, for so long, he's 18, actually. I met him. He got to know her, and he used to say about my grandmother, she just reeked of class, just reeked of class. And I think one of the reasons, other than that she dressed to the nines, was that she didn't react. I mean, ever. Can't think of not even one example of her ever reacting to anything. She was so poised. She would, think something through, come back, and then calmly have some kind of calm response. And this is what we're talking about, is just being quietly effective. Leave the room. Just maybe if somebody's taking advantage of a PTO meeting or taking advantage of you in the workplace or whatever, maybe you don't need to sign up to decorate for the Halloween thing. Even though, I'm a Halloween nut fan, maybe you just don't need to decorate the office as much as you're inclined to, because you've done it for 10 years. If people are taking advantage of you, and remember, we're not trying to overtly prove any point. Point proving is all ego driven. We're just stepping out of the current. That's very important, because people pick up on the energy. So it just when you do the prove a point thing, even if it's quiet, it still looks weak. You got to kind of do it with class, which is what made me think of my grandmother. Just step out of the current without any kind of residual anger or snark at the people, even quietly. You have to really, really detach from that to be quietly effective. Good. And here's kind of the mantra: when you walk out of the room, as when you're being quietly effective, or you step off the committee and you're quietly effective, you are not decorating for the PTO thing, and you just say something that's whatever to get out of it, that's not proving a point. In your head, what you are saying is, to privately, wow, I think way too highly of myself. And I, to stand here and take this, or sit here and take this, or whatever. I think way too highly of myself. I respect myself, and we're not gonna say it. We're just gonna do it. Be quietly effective and just stay in your power, in your frame of authenticity. This is Kimberly Quinn, signing off from the beautiful Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.